So I'm going to take you through some of the information I found when researching, starting from our website, some of our roles that we have there, jumping over to the National Archives for the service records, and then coming back to our sources to find out more details about where he was serving and what he was actually doing. So going through, we had the attestation papers when he enlisted. It shows that he was a cadet with the 12th before he enlisted. And that seems to be a connection, because after the war he continued to serve in the militia with 12th Battalion down in Launceston. And I think that's something that's continued on throughout the family as well. He was a motor mechanic before enlisting. He was 25 when he enlisted in 1914, but he was married at the time. He lists his wife as his next of kin. So for strict family historians who are looking at lineage, that's where service records can be quite useful, making those family connections to places and names about who next of kin were at particular points in time and that sort of thing. You have his physical description when he joins, including scars. So he had a scar over his right eye. And then we come to one of the first summary pages. But essentially what I could see after some training, he actually sailed with the first convoy from Australia in 1914.
So the first convoy out of Albany.
Yep. Right. He remained with that unit on Gallipoli until October 1915 when he was evacuated with illness. He had gastritis. Again, not something that it was quite common because of the conditions, sanitation, food. Like the last thing we see is the fact that he's going off to land at Gallipoli on the 24th. And then the next thing he's leaving Gallipoli for Alexandria in October. So we make the assumption from that he was there.
So he was at Gallipoli until October.
Yep.
I must say I didn't realise that.
Yeah.
When did he arrive at Gallipoli? Do you know
25th of April he landed.
So he was at the Gallipoli landing?
Yep. So from that point, if you're wanting to find out sort of more about what the 12th was involved with, we do have a lot of published histories in the collection, but we also have the war diaries for the unit, which is one of our, have been digitised and are available online. If people can find a published history on the unit their relative was in, I would recommend starting with those because they've been written to be read.
Right.
It does make mention that throughout 1917 he was a driver with the British Red Cross.
That makes sense because I've got some photographs of him outside a hospital with a couple of other young blokes. Amazing.
So that's the quick overview of his service. So from here, so people can use a service record to find the units and those dates, and from there that's where they can delve into, depending on how far they want to go, delve into unit records to find out where they were and what they were doing. So there's things like the digitised war diaries, which are quite detailed, published histories, which we have quite a large collection of. For people who can't visit us, they can get those on interlibrary loan through their local libraries. But also on our website we have things like the unit histories. Sometimes people just want a bit of an overview, so these just sort of touch on the high points of a unit when it was raised, their theatres of operation, colour patch and that kind of thing.
So because often families have a bit of information, like I have some photographs which now make a lot more sense from an exercise book of photographs my great-grandfather had put together, and they're all basically Palestine photographs and lots of planes, including a German plane that they managed to capture fully intact, and then, as I say, some images of him in front of a hospital with some other guys. So that all makes much more sense now.
Yes, it puts that context around it.
I've got to say the Gallipoli story is not one that we were familiar with. We knew he'd been in the 12th Battalion, but I didn't realise he'd actually landed at Gallipoli, and certainly not on the 25th.
From everything I've seen, he was there.
Yeah, wonderful. So I can see that between the overview, say the 12th Battalion, you get the context, families have various degrees of information, and then through our archives, and certainly those of the National Archives, we can put together a much more detailed story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Jen.